So it's part of the mysteries of speech that we're going to look at a few things today in relation to speech and the spiritual path. And first of all, we've got the fact that speech affects the organs through gutes sprechen, through good speaking. Secondly, it has a forming organizing principle which comes through in the rhythmic way in which we speak. Durch rhythmisches Sprechen, ordnend. So first of all, organbildend in German, shaping the organs through guten Sprechen, through good speaking. Secondly, ordnend, organizing, the organizing principle, durch rhythmisches Sprechen. Thirdly, befreiend und stärkend, liberating and strengthening through dynamic, beautiful speaking, durch dynamisches, schönes Sprechen. Number 4, it affects us. It is wirkend through stilvolles Sprechen. Stilvolles Sprechen. Through stylistic speaking. It is awakening. It has an effect of awakening us. And number 5, purifying in German, reinigend. Durch Gebärden erfülltes Sprechen. With gestures. So we're going to try and bring some of these elements into the speaking of a text today, which is Goldfoot. Now, in anthroposophical circles, many people know this. It's a well-known collection of fairy tales, which is called The Man in Many Colors, Der Mensch in aller Farben. And it's a collection of fairy tales from France of unknown time. They're difficult to place them in terms of time. A bit like Grimm's fairy tales. These are stories that have been handed down through the generations. They're part of the Allgemeingut. They're part of the general cultural inheritance of France that has been passed down. Now, this collection of books in particular, I'm not sure if it had come from a particular indication of Steiner or not, but these, you'll see in this story, it refers to the sons of the widow. And as we know from Rudolf Steiner, any time that this sons of a widow is mentioned, we're having a discrete heads up, a distinct signature of the stream of money. Now, the stream of money, as we know from Rudolf Steiner, is how evil, how darkness is turned to light. And we can refer back to money as in how he appears then in history. And we can follow this initiate through various incarnations, particularly in relation to Parzival, where he comes as the figure of Parzival in these stories. Now, why is the relation here to the sons of the widow? Well, we see at the beginning here of the story that we're going to read, two characters. We have the apprentice and his mother, and it starts at the beginning of the story that he needs to leave his mother. They can't survive, and he needs to go on a quest to find a means of earning his living so that they can continue to survive. Now, this is the outer picture of a kind of the many references in the inner life, in the spiritual life, to the process of initiation. So first of all, we have the aspect of homelessness, where we leave our home, we go on a journey, and this journey is a journey over the threshold of the spiritual world to recover lost aspects of ourselves as we learn to integrate the various parts of ourselves on a path of initiation. So this melancholy at the beginning of the son of a widow, and we can just think into this image. What does it mean to be the son of a widow? We think of the grief of a mother dressed in black, perhaps, when we think of this image. We think of the departed husband. And these pictures can call forth in us the grief and the concern of how to provide, how to care for our mother in this situation who is experiencing this grief of loss. Also, the purely materialistic concerns of how the son is going to provide for the mother after the departing of the father. And we can think of all this in our souls and think to ourselves what this mirrors in us. And really think deeply into this, of this sense that many have today, this longing, this longing to return to the spirit, to return to a soul filled with the spirit. And when we do this, then we're in the position of the apprentice. We're in the position of the young man who has to leave the house. Now, is it important that this is a young man and that the mother is in this traditional mold, that it's the man who goes out to work and the mother who stays home, and it's the widow who's kind of helpless, and it's the man who has to go out and do all the things in life? Yeah, of course, this is more, if we think in that the soul for everyone is a depiction of the feminine, and that the masculine is a depiction of the physical, you can then take it away from the gender aspect of whether this is a man or a woman. This is let's say, a human individuality incarnated in a body has a soul, and the soul is designated feminine, and the body is here designated masculine. And then these different roles, these gender roles that are then assigned, perhaps something very healing about such stories for today is that they are helping us to see the makeup of the human being in a much more differentiated way. So the when we come to, in anthroposophy, to speak of the etheric body, and for a man the etheric body is feminine, for the woman the etheric body is masculine, right up to the differentiation in spirit. And until this point, we have this duality, male female, and this is bordering on deeper mysteries about the different bodies and how they are shaped, masculine, feminine. And we can see this woven into all kinds of mysteries that are also coming and spoken about in the New Age in relation to twin flames and soulmates and karmic destinies, and how love in that sense, relationships in that sense, is woven into all manner of different relationships, from mother to daughter, from mother to son, from father to daughter. Many of these mysteries are also, of course, in the Bible, where I guess the most prominent and full of mystery is where, of course, Jesus says to John, to Mary and John, "Mother, behold thy son, son, behold thy mother," at the point of his crucifixion. And at that point, designating then from henceforth new spiritual relationships between people that are a result of taking part and engaging and being part of the whole process of coming to be part of the awakening of Christ and the embodiment and Christ's working down into the different members, which transforms everything that was there before into a new beholding. And we might think again of John with when he is initiated by Christ, there before standing before Christ with nine different members visible there before Christ. And again, this is going into deeper mysteries that you can read about also in relation to, in this mystery from Rudolf Steiner and also from Judith von Haller, who go into these mysteries of the ninefold nature of the human being, especially with regard to the last address that Steiner gave short before his death. Anyway, I'm connecting back here also to things that we spoke last week about, which was in relation to Christian Rosenkreuz and Mani. So if we do a short recap, this aspect of coming to a point in life where we see what the path that we had previously led up to a previous point in time has brought us to a crisis point where the bell tolls, where up to a certain point we had been progressing along a certain path, and then we see that if we had continued in this path, we would have met our death. And this is a shaking experience for the human being, to see that, to first of all, to be awakened in this moment to a deeper insight into life than we would normally have as we are just progressing in the normal track of things. And I think many people have had this experience, especially who are drawn to anthroposophical work. And this is the first experience, the sense that, I have to make a major reorientation of my life. I have to consider the coordinates of my life. I have to consider the map of my life very, very differently now. I have to reassess the motivation, the motivating impulses of my life. I have to assess what has been driving me, what have been the things impelling me forward in life, and look at them from a new perspective. And it's at this point that many people then come to spiritual teachings or come to anthroposophy to seek a deeper appreciation of how this karma can unfold henceforth. And this, to bring it back to the description of Christian Rosenkreuz, this is then a life devoted to the esoteric mysteries, where this sense of a gift, and this is the other side that comes with it, within the crisis, within one's deepest crisis, this erschütternde in German, this shaking experience of seeing that we're not anymore in Kansas. The things are very different to what we previously thought they were. This is the awakening more in the thinking life. In the feeling life, if we look at this, if we look at what the experience is then in the feeling life, we have two things. Of course, there's the anxiety, there's the perhaps grief of an old world dying away. On the other hand, there's the sense in the feeling life of life being a gift. And it's this, if we can quieten ourselves in through difficult periods of crisis and enormous change or challenge, that then after the feeling of panic, the feeling of anxiety, then comes this great welling up inside, combined with this desire, drive to study the occult, the welling up of a feeling that life is a gift, a great thankfulness for life. And out of this deep thankfulness, we see we can then have the resources to actually start to live from the middle. And from this experience of the middle, then we can start to see down into the will, into the paths of life that this new life can start to show us. So you see, we're going away from a map. First of all, see perhaps wanting to study how the map looks. Yeah, that's the first awakening in this spiritual thinking space. Secondly, we start to feel the resources of the middle of our feeling life growing. There's this sense for a gift within the middle. And then through this, we start to see down into our will, into new paths of life. And these are the paths of knowledge. So before we had kind of shine knowledge, we had the superficial knowledge, we have opinion, we have the motivating drives of our life that we might need to turn 180 degrees from to see these, to experience these new experiences, and then determine how we are going to go down deeper into the will, into the body. So it's a process of going down into the body, a twofold process, then awakening to the spirit and then going down deeper into the body. Which brings us back, of course, to the connection between Christian Rosenkreuz and Mani, which is what we talked about last time. And that is that Mani's deeper initiation of Christian Rosenkreuz, moving on deeper into the temple from Christian Rosenkreuz to Mani. And you can actually see in people's lives, and I'm giving this caveat because there's a lot of people that say, well, who's going to understand any of this that you're talking about? Well, I'm not looking here to reach a mass market. It's, although these platforms are designed for mass markets, this is really speaking. A lot of these things will just sound esoteric, gobbledygook, yeah, gobbledygook to a lot of people, unless you've actually experienced it in your life. And this is part of the deeper initiation, firstly of Christian Rosenkreuz, and then to have this sense for the initiation of Mani. And again, this is something I like to say, I guess some people have heard me say this before, which will put a smile on your face. And that is that you've either experienced this initiation or not. So if your eyes have been opened to how evil manifests in the world, the whole question of evil, if it has become a philosophical musing for you, if it has become something that occupies you day and night, if it has become something that has shaped your character and shaped the paths of your life down into your will, then you'll know something of what I'm talking about. If it has then given you insight into karma, into the karma of other people, this would be a deeper aspect of what I'm talking about. And thirdly, as with Parsival, if you see that part of this path has to begin by becoming a fool and experiencing the suffering, but also the great learning that comes from the humiliation of being a fool in life, then again, you know some of the deeper aspects of this mystery. And these mysteries are known in the different esoteric traditions, whether from the holy fools of India or the stories of the Mahasiddhas or the crazy wisdom of Milarepa and the songs and the poetry that is developed out of this about the spiritual path. Then you can see that these or the starets in Russia, you can see that these are aspects of the spiritual path that speak to a knowledge that of how the mysteries are brought into the will. And again, this is moving away from the theoretical knowledge of the spirit down into a an initiation as the next stage to be called an initiate. But then thirdly, down into being a magician, that one can actually effect change in life. And to inherit these gifts and abilities, one has to go on a path. It's not something that can remain theoretical knowledge. It has to be brought into one's will. So again, these are topics that are often spoken about, but it's difficult to relate some of these ideas into perceivable teachings that one can reflect upon. But that's the beauty of anthroposophy, that we can start to speak about some of these things and we can start to give names to them and speak about them in relation to the different bodies and relation to the work that is involved in transforming the different bodies. So without further ado, I'm going to read the opening to the story of Goldenfoot. And then we're going to analyze it. I'm going to do about the first couple of paragraphs and then we'll come back to this. A bit like a series. So, there was once a blacksmith in Pont de Pîle who was a fathom tall and strong as a pair of oxen. He was a man blacker than a hearth, with a long beard, bristly hair, and eyes as red as coals. He never set foot in a church, and he ate meat at all times, even on Good Friday. It was said that the blacksmith of Pont de Pîle was not of the Christian faith. The fact is that he lived alone in his house, which the customers were never allowed to enter. Rather, they had to call the master out when they had to deal with him. The blacksmith had no one like him in working iron, as well as gold and silver. The orders fell into his house like hail. He did everything without any other help than that of a black wolf, as big as a horse. Day and night this wolf remained locked in the wheel that set the bellows of the forge in motion. 7 young people had signed up with the master to learn the trade, but the trials were hard, so hard so severe that they all died of them after 3 days. So this first paragraph is like an invitation. I'll share the screen so you can read along if you like. The first paragraph is like an invitation. Goldenfoot. Eine Klafter groß und stark wie ein Paar Oxen. Here he is, the blacksmith. And here we have a somewhat Mephisto-looking apprentice. Not how I would have chosen him here. I just took any old picture here. This is not from the story. So we have to think of the character here as an apprentice, whereas this one is a very devilish looking character. So all these things, first of all, it's anyway better for us to picture these ourselves. A blacksmith, blacker than a hearth. All this invocation here is of the fire, the blackening of the fire's effect that has worked itself right into the very physical features of the blacksmith. Secondly, he's not a Christian, he's a pagan, pointing to us that we are also not Christians until we have walked the path to find our way back to Christ. The blacksmith had no one like him working in iron as well as gold and silver. So the emphasis again here on speech, iron ruled by Mars, gold ruled by the sun, silver ruled by the moon. The orders fell into his house like hail. So in comparison to the apprentice, we immediately see that the apprentice, on leaving his mother to, which we'll see later in the story, we'll come to that in the next paragraph, when he leaves his widow mother and comes to be the apprentice of the blacksmith, we're recognizing a dialectic already at this point between the apprentice and his mother, his widow mother, unable to make ends meet. On the other hand, we have this self-employed blacksmith who has no want of work. Day and night his wolf remained locked in the wheel that set the bellows of the forge in motion. The power here of the wolf working the air into the forge so that he can power the fire to do his work into the metals. 7 young people had signed up with the master to learn the trade, but the trials were so hard, so severe, that they had all died of them after 3 days. So we've got a heads up here also to the path of initiation, and a warning here that previously no one had been able to survive this. This is like the traditional warning before the mysteries, that it's a process of death and resurrection that we're going to be talking about here. Diese Zeit lebte in Valle Lakota eine arme Witwe, welche mit ihrem Sohn allein ein Häuschen bewohnte. At that time in the hamlet of Lakota, there lived a poor widow who lived alone in a cottage with her son. One evening, when the boy had reached the age of 14, he said to his mother, "Mother, we are both working hard and not even earning our living. Tomorrow I want to go and see the blacksmith of Pont de Pîle and become his apprentice. My friend, this man never sets foot in a church and eats meat at all times, even on Good Friday. They say he is not of the Christian faith. Mother, the blacksmith of Pont de Pîle will not tempt me to sin. My friend, 7 young people signed up with him to learn the trade, but the trials were so hard, so severe, that they all died of them after 3 days. Mother, I will endure the rehearsals and will not die. My friend, I leave everything to the grace and God and the Blessed Virgin Mary. Both went to sleep. Now, there's some interesting things here in the translation. First of all, proben. It might sound strange. Proben, the tests. I've written in here the rehearsals, or rather the automatic translation wrote in here rehearsals, which is not such a bad word. The rehearsals for the real life, the real performance. Okay, but these are tests. And again, this is the warning of the mysteries that it's going to be a teaching regarding life and death and resurrection. And again, this is also in the more biblical sense, the references to the Christian faith, to God and Blessed Virgin Mary, are all pointing out that this is a path here from inherent paganism to an awakening to Christ. Anything else? Again, let's have a look at this, my friend. This man never sets foot in a church and eats meat at all times. Even on Good Friday, when you should eat fish. And this question of fish eating and meat is something that's going to go through the whole of this story right through to the end. And we'll see the blacksmith also changing into an otter at one point and seeking out his prey as the fish. And we think of the the archaic Christian picture of the fish and what it means to fish, to become fishers of men. Am nächsten Morgen, bei Tagesanbruch, fand sich der Knabe vor der Werkstatt des Schmiedes von Pont de Pîle ein. Ho, Schmied von Pont de Pîle, ho, 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 was willst du, Bursch? Schmied von Pont de Pîle, ich will euer Lehrling werden. Tritt ein, Bursch. Der Knabe trat in der Werkstatt ohne Furcht und Grauen. The next morning at dawn, the boy found himself in front of the Pont de Pîle blacksmith's workshop. Ho, blacksmith of Pont de Pîle, ho, ho, ho. What do you want, lad? Blacksmith of Pont de Pîle, I want to be your apprentice. Enter, lad. The lad stepped into the workshop without fear or dread. Boy, show me that you are strong. The boy took an anvil weighing 700 weight and threw it more than 100 fathoms. Boy, show me that you are skillful. The boy went to a spider's web, reeled it from one end to the other, and wound it into a ball without once breaking the thread. Boy, show me that you have courage. The boy opened the gate of the wheel in which the black wolf, as big as a horse, and who operated the bellows of the forge, lived day and night. Immediately the wolf jumped out, but the boy grabbed him by the neck while he was still jumping, cut off his tail and 4 paws on an anvil, and burned him alive in the fire of the forge. Lad, your trials are past. You are strong, skilled, and brave. In 3 days you shall be in my service. I will pay you well, but I do not wish you to live or eat with me. Master, I obey you. So next morning, This is then a negotiation between the apprentice and the blacksmith. So it's a negotiation of whether the apprentice has the correct attributes to be able to be taken as a student of the mysteries. Now we notice the requirements of the student on the spiritual path. We know this from Rudolf Steiner's knowledge of higher worlds. We can also read it in Egyptian mysteries or any of the requirements, the Greek mysteries, Freemasonry. What are the requirements to be able to start to take the path of initiation? Well, first of all, we have to be aware of the power of the wolf. The wolf has the very lowest drives, fiery instinctual drives that we carry with us. So it's not surprising that the apprentice has to show that he has a certain mastery of this. So he says to him, show me that you are strong. And the boy took an anvil and threw it 100 fathoms. So 100 fathoms here is relating to the astral body. How can we got three figures in this number, 100? So we have the one, the command of the astral body. And do you have the strength here to the 700 weight means, do you have the strength here to see the effect astrally of your thoughts and what they are doing out there in the world? This is a very basic teaching of Steiner to see the effects of our thoughts and feelings on the world around us, which means on other people around us, and deeper into the very matter of the world that we have built around ourselves with our character in life. So it's no small deed to be able to have the strength here, the strength of character, to be able to start to bring some of this astral knowledge down into the etheric body. Now, as soon as the boy shows this strength of character, his master, the blacksmith, says to him, boy, show me that you are skillful. And the boy went to a spider's web, reeled it from one end to the other, and wound it into a ball without breaking the thread. What a wonderful picture. Now here, how are our new spiritual thoughts about the world that we live in? How have we built this into our etheric bodies? Have we been able to weave, like a spider does, connections between things unseen, perhaps to the normal understanding of things? Have we been able to weave this net for ourselves out over the world around us? If we have, then we have the power to be able to roll up all those threads instead of being a victim of being perhaps finessed, lost in a matrix of the different threads of life out over the world that we've created for ourselves. Can we, if we have gained this power, then this is where the boy is able to show that he has reeled it from one end to another and wound it into a ball without once breaking the thread. We don't want to break any of the etheric threads that we have formed. Rather, our power over it can bring this back into a ball. This world of the etheric that we are living into is at our command. Boy, show me that you have courage. The boy opened the gate of the wheel in which the black wolf, as big as a horse, operated the bellows of the forge, lived day and night. And immediately the wolf jumped out. But the boy grabbed him by the neck while he was still jumping, cut off his tail and 4 paws on an anvil, and buried him alive in the fire of the forge. Lad, your trials are past. So again, moving down here from the astral to the etheric to show that you have courage in life. Have you been able to take this strength of your astral body, of your thinking? Have you been able to so form your thoughts about the esoteric mysteries? Have you brought them into your character is the second step. Because now you would be ready to see what lies within your will. And we spoke last time about how what lies in our will can often be seen in its inverse, and to see how the gifts, our true karma that we have come into this life to bring into being. If we've understood this, then we have then we have the power to confront the fearful form of the wolf. And when it then jumps out onto us, we have the presence of mind to be able to act and do what is necessary. And this is the it comes in Steiner when he speaks of the fire trial, to be able to in one moment act decisively, to know what must be done, and to establish a way forward where our will is not something that is spontaneously overwhelming us with that anger and ferocity of the wolf, but that we are able to, in German it says geschickt and mutig. Du bist stark, geschickt und mutig. We can bring these 3 elements that we've already overcome, the astral element in our thinking, the abilities in our feeling, and this courage to act, to do the right thing in the right moment, and to then cut off the will of the ferocious, instinctual, fiery wolf, cut off his tail on the anvil and burn him alive in the fire of the forge. So by doing this, we take over we take over the central power of the blacksmith. And we see here then this evolution from the apprentice to the blacksmith is how the apprentice is going to slowly inherit and take over the powers of what has previously been the master of his life, the pagan master of his life. And it's then setting up how the bellows of the forge are powered night and day, so that we see that the things that we do in the day and their effects in the spiritual world that we may see in the night, they are connected. So part of this process of what the apprentices here achieved, when the blacksmith then says, lad, your trials are past, you are strong, skilled, and brave, stark, geschickt, and mutig. In 3 days you shall be in my service. I will pay you well, but I do not wish you to live nor eat with me. So it's not fully overcome. The apprentice here has seen, he's not one of the apprentices who had failed under these tests, as all of the apprentices had failed before. No, he is now in 3 days. He now says, in 3 days you shall be in my service. This is not then the full resurrection, which is what the whole story is going to lead us through, but this is his first appreciation that is what this resurrection process is being that he has so to sagen, that he has, so to speak, passed the admissions test. You know, er hat Zulassung. He has he has fulfilled the requirements. He's been taken in, and he has shown that he has the character qualities that will enable him to progress further into the mysteries. Now, the next point here, der Lehrling verabschiedete sich von Schmiede Pont de Pîle und ging. Draußen dachte er, meine Mutter hat recht. Mein Meister ist kein Mensch wie die anderen. The apprentice said goodbye to the Pont de Pîle blacksmith and left. Outside he thought, my mother is right. My master is not a man like the others. For 3 days I will hide myself and watch him without seeing me. Then I will know who I am dealing with. So this question of knowledge, how do we come to know the master under whom we are studying? This is the point where the apprentice is recognizing that he has to do with the powers of initiation, the powers of being an awake ich presence over the threshold of the spiritual world. And that is what is being spoken of to him here. And that is what is going to be, he says, for 3 days I will hide myself and watch him without him seeing me. Then I will know who I am dealing with. Now, at this point, I'll just share with you what's coming next in this story. So I like this this card. It's from some kind of gaming deck or something. Lutki the Spell Chaser. The Elemental Otter. Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. Blah, blah, blah. When Lutri the Spell Chaser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. The Spell Chaser. So it's very interesting that this comes at this point. So we see that part of this story that's being described here is how we can now start to understand the power of spells, the power of our speech, again, connecting back to the beginning. How will our speech, he says as his cat starts meowing, how is our speech affecting, enchanting the world around us? And what comes next in the story is that the blacksmith, then the apprentice witnesses from his secret space, which we will look at next time, how the blacksmith transforms himself into a fish otter. And there's a very rather lovely picture I found here of a fish otter proudly bearing his prey. So yeah, this will be then also depicting the process again in a kind of pagan sense, how the master transforms himself into an otter to become a fisher, whereas we, becoming fishers of men, want to inherit these abilities in a Christian sense. But to do this, we will have to go through this process of initiation. Anyway, hope you liked that. Storytelling. If you want to work further on this with me, please feel free to get in touch. I'll be carrying on with this. I'm hoping to do like the next 4 parts of this. So if you're following this, I'll put the text in the blurb below, and If you want the whole text, then I'll put it also in the Facebook group as we go along. So feel free to email me and I'll send it to you. Anyway, all the best. I hope you liked it. Ciao.